Welcome to the Crochet Business School podcast. I'm your host, Kelly Thomas, and I'm going to help you to make your crochet business dreams a reality, stitch by stitch, without you being chained to your hook and being able to live that lifestyle you've been dreaming of using the power of your crochet. Today, I'm talking about pattern writing tips if you've never written a pattern before. So I have a course on pattern writing for beginners. I've just completely rewritten it. So it's been out for a couple of years, but it was in need of a rewrite. I've done that now, and it's in 4 simple steps to get your first pattern written. And there's loads of tips in there. There's checklists and templates to get your first pattern written and off the ground. But what are some tips I can give you if you're going this alone? What tips are going to help you get your first pattern ready to go? So pattern writing is a great way to add recurring income into your crochet business because they sell while you sleep. They don't need you to do any more work after you've gotten it written up and published. Your sales happen automatically. There's no process once you're sold, apart from the odd question that you'll get messaged. And a pattern will keep on earning you income for years to come. That pattern will not stop selling until you decide to remove it from your shop. That is why crochet patterns are so wonderful, and it's why I've got an entire business based around them. So I've been writing crochet patterns for many years now, but I really became known for them 6 years ago when I released my first crochet along. The 50 stitches crochet along went a bit bananas, and I have learned so much by doing it. And that's why I'm here. I'm giving you the shortcuts I wish I had, because I learn on the job, and I made so many mistakes when I started. I still need to go back and update my earliest patterns to reflect how I write now, because every writer has their own unique style. And when writing your own patterns, you'll develop your own as well. There are standard ways of writing crochet patterns. There's standard abbreviations for all these stitches, which you can all find all listed at the, I always get this the wrong way around, Craft Yarn Council. Is it Yarn Craft Council? I think it's Craft Yarn Council. I can never remember. But it's, they have loads of lists of all the abbreviations for stitches. So they are the kind of industry standard. So it's always a great resource to check out for industry standard, not only for stitches, but for sizes as well. So that would be my first tip for you. Always check out that site, because it's a great little repository of knowledge, and it's completely free to use as well. So the standard abbreviations for stitches. There's that's really the only standard there is. That's the only must. Everything else is down to a designer's personal style, how each designer wants to present. You can use a lot of words, you can use very few words. You can use lots of pictures, you can use very few pictures. You don't have to have it written at all, you can just have a video and put it on YouTube. There are so many different ways that you can choose to write your patterns, and it's all down to your personal preference. Yes, there are some expectations of what people expect to see in your patterns, like the standard abbreviations, so they know what each thing means, but also stitch counts. They expect to at least see some sort of visual reference so they know where they're up to and that they're on the right track. Something that's easy to read and with, good spacing so they don't get lost when they're looking away. the information that's included. And really, that's one of the biggest parts of when your pattern is getting written up, making sure you've got all the relevant information so that someone can just pick up your pattern and go and get everything they need. What type of yarn did you use? How much of it is needed? What hook sizes did you use? Did you use any accessories such as buttons or zips? What skill level is it? Did you use US or UK terms? Even if you're a US designer, never assume somebody knows where you're from. So always state which terms you need. Because just because you live in the US, people are going to buy your patterns from all over the world. Because there is nothing stopping anyone from buying patterns from someone in another country. Digital goods become international. And you'll get sales from all over the world. So you can't assume anybody knows where you're from and what terms you're using. So you do have to state it. So all this information has to go into your pattern as well. You need good pictures because your pattern has to sell itself. So you still need fantastic pictures to sell that design. As long as you deliver what you promise, then people are going to love your patterns. Pattern writing is a process, and it's a protracted process. It takes months to get a pattern from start to publishing. From your initial design, your initial idea, to actually publishing the finished pattern can take months. And that's just because there's so much involved. You need the time to make up your design. You need the time to write it up. You need the time to get it tested and make sure you haven't missed anything. You need time to edit. You need time to take the photos. And then finally, you can publish it. So most designers have several patterns on the go at the same time in different stages of development. I've lost count of how many I've got. I've got 2 at least that are just waiting for their final write-ups. I've got several in my whip basket, a couple of which have been thrown out in there in disgust, but they'll get picked back up again. I've only got 1 that's in the process of being made at the minute, and I've got several kind of drafted out with diagrams waiting to be made. And I think that's fairly standard for every pattern designer. There's a lot going on and to keep track of, so organisation is something else that's key. Keeping organised and keeping track. Making notes is essential. Making sure you know where each design is at. Making sure that you know which hook goes with which project. And one thing that I learned fairly quickly was never rely on your own memory. Because something that you think is obvious now will not be so obvious in several weeks' time when you come back to the project. And then you're left scrambling trying to remember what you did. So each pattern has to have its own set of notes that goes with it to make sure that you don't forget anything. Because thinking that you will still remember something several weeks from now is the biggest fallacy going. You're not going to remember, and you're going to think, how could you not have written notes? I did that a few times and then never again. Everything now gets noted down. Because what seems obvious now is not going to later. And you sat there trying to decipher these strange squiggles that you've written down, or you're desperately looking for a piece of information that you never wrote down in the first place. It's the biggest time sucker trying to figure something out that at the time you thought was really obvious. So now, every pattern I start gets its own set of notes that I kept with it no matter what stage the design process is at, because it's the only way I'm going to remember anything. But writing crochet patterns it's like anything new. It's a process you have to learn. You will learn your own quirks. you will arrive at your own way of writing, and you will build a following, an audience of people who love the way you write patterns, who love the kind of designs you create, and will follow you through. They'll follow you for years because they love your patterns. I've got a lovely group of people, and every time I release a new pattern, they always pop up. And they're fabulous. And I love that I can always rely on them showing up. And if they don't, I start wondering where they are. And then I start wondering, is this pattern actually really rubbish? And I've, judged it wrong. But I've yet to have a pattern that's really flopped. Sometimes sales start off slow and gain traction later. It really depends on what your marketing is like. And that's another tip I would say, is that there is an audience for every single pattern that you make. There is somebody who will want to make it. But although writing patterns gives you much more freedom in the type of patterns you create than selling what you make, you still need to stick to a niche. Your niche can be much wider for crochet patterns, but there still needs to be something that pulls it all together. My business has a bit of a strange niche. Mine is based around different crochet stitches. My crochet alongs tend to be stuffed with dozens of different crochet stitches. They're like giant sample blankets. And then the patterns I make in between them are made with stitches from the crochet alongs. It's a strange niche. It's a broad niche, but it works for me. It gives me a lot of freedom with what I make. And I love trying out new stitches. That's my thing. I love finding out new stitches to make and try them out. But you still need to find a niche. You've still got to find a theme that pulls your business together. You can broaden out as you go, but at least for your first few designs, it's best to have an obvious theme to them. Because people still need to figure out what kind of patterns you write, what you're about. And you don't need to wait until you have several patterns to publish anything. You publish your first one and you're off. Now that first pattern will still build you an audience. Some crocheters, a lot of crocheters, they love new patterns. And they will jump onto a new pattern as soon as they see it to find out what it's about, see if it's something new, find out about the designer. And so you can build an audience very quickly with crochet patterns from scratch. Just because there is such a real appetite for brand new patterns. There is an audience for you. Just because you haven't written your first one yet doesn't mean that you're going to struggle. It just means you've got a new process to get used to. And, with crochet patterns, the devil is in the detail. It's making sure you have all the details put together and that everything that is required to make your design is included in that pattern. It's very simple on the face of things. But the reason things go a little bit wrong is if a pattern hasn't been tested properly. Because we are not very good at telling if we've missed something in our own patterns because we see what we expect to see. And the testing process is so important for that reason. But in general, if you write a well-written pattern and you market it well, then you're going to get sales. You're going to get people taking an interest. There is a buyer for every single crochet pattern. So if writing your own crochet patterns is something that interests you and you're looking for a beginner's guide on how to get started, go to Crochet Business School /shop and you're going to see my pattern writing for beginners course sat there waiting for you. It's had a complete and total overhaul. I've re-recorded the entire thing. So it is mostly videos. It's presentation style, so there's slides, but everything is in there. Checklists, tips on how to edit your photos, everything you need to get your first crochet pattern written and ready for publishing. So please do go take a look. Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Crochet Business School podcast. Stay tuned for more episodes and please subscribe to wherever you listen to your podcast. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Crochet Business School. Subscribe to the channels because I would love to hear from you and what you're up to in your own crochet business. If you have any questions about creating and growing your own crochet business, please send them my way and I'll answer them in future episodes. So thank you for joining me and I shall see you in the next episode. Bye for now.